What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. This will be the first official podcast that Mike and I do together. It is currently unnamed, and I kind of already pre-introduced them, but sitting across from me right now is Michael Murray. Mike, would you like to kind of open up and introduce yourself to the audience here?
Yeah, I would love to tell everyone about myself.
Sounds good.
So, my name's Mike Murray. Currently in the midst of a dietetic internship. Just graduated from LaSalle with a bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics. Before that, I earned an associate's degree in exercise science. And while I was doing that, I worked as a personal trainer in a gym. I've competed in powerlifting a few times. I was a mediocre powerlifter. Now we're transitioning to mediocre bodybuilding. We'll see how that goes. I've coached at probably twice as many powerlifting meets at this point. And I still do some online training. Got a handful of people. Write programs, provide some basic nutrition education. That's about it. What about you, Cole?
So as you can see, Mike has quite the long list of credentials. I would say my list is not as long, but I just graduated last May from Westchester University with, I guess, a bachelor's of science, but I was exercise science specifically with a concentration in pre-physical therapy. And so this past summer, I started at Widener University's Doctor of Physical Therapy program, and I kind of got into that when I got into lifting and nutrition about 4 or 5 years ago, I guess, at this point. And I guess I could thank Mike a lot for where I am today and how passionate I kind of feel about it. So like Mike, I kind of have a bodybuilding mindset, if you will. I have no credentials or aspirations in competing bodybuilding, but specifically building muscle hypertrophy I'm super interested in, and kind of how I can improve my performance each and every week and just get a little bit better. So I would say my sophomore year in college is when I started getting into more the scientific principles and research side of things of training and nutrition. Because before, like most people, I was probably just a wandering soul listening to different opinions from different guys in the gym. And for example, like my older brother. And if you just like listen word of mouth, it can get you somewhere, get you started, get the ball rolling, which was good. But through talking to Mike, I got into the research side of things. We currently split a membership to monthly application of Strength Sport, the monthly research review, kind of that compiles all the research that kind of came out in that month to see like what was kind of the most relevant or practical articles, and it's broken down to layman's terms for the average, I guess, reader like me. So I've been doing that for a while with him, and I've kind of not really personally trained per se as a job, but I've helped a lot of people kind of get into lifting, teach a little bit about the basics of nutrition, and get them going in their kind of lifting career, if you will. So that's kind of my story right now. So we're here to kind of bring you as much useful information as you can and some food for thought for any training or nutrition questions you may have, maybe some life and practical takeaways as well. So we hope to help you out.
That was splendid. Way to really set that up, man.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
So let's get into how these podcasts are probably going to typically go. So first off, we're going to call this Speaker's Choice. So this is probably something we see from like Instagram during the week that just gets us fired up and ready to go.
Cute and trendy, whatever's happening and we don't like.
And we just want to go on a rant about it to open up the podcast. And then after that, we plan on getting some guests on, right? We know intelligent people who have good stuff to say.
Yeah, we have some smart people in the tool belt, I hope.
And then if we're not doing that, we're going to answer questions. And we got a nice little handful of questions. Yeah,
we actually got some good responses from social media. We appreciate your feedback. We're happy to talk about pretty much anything and everything if we can speak on it and provide some light to it. So, do you want to get into the first thing? Get it going?
Yeah, let's do it. Give us a little abstract of this post we saw on Instagram this week that is just It's horrible. Absolutely horrible.
All right, so basically, I came across an Instagram story from, an average person, regular person like you or me, just kind of wants to be healthier and improve themselves through lifting and, I guess, the nutrition side of things. So this post was essentially a screenshot of another post from kind of like a fitness Instagram influencer and describing what to eat on a bulk or a massing phase when you're eating more calories than your body needs to take in to maintain itself. So this post was saying to eat mostly whole unprocessed foods and to avoid like overloading on junk foods and fast foods of that sort. So this individual pretty much screenshotted that post, posted it to their story, and claimed to never eat junk food the entire time you're trying to gain weight, because in her particular situation, she would feel sick and kind of just lethargic and awful, I guess, and she claimed that she lost 3 to 4 pounds during this process. And then when she ate clean, whole unprocessed foods for the majority of her diet, her weight just remained the same. So I feel like there are plenty of issues we can dissect with this to talk about.
We can go a lot of different ways with this post. I think, firstly, we should probably dissect like the actual nutrition science aspect of that and like practical application of massing. So what is like fundamentally incorrect about this post? Well, it's that if you eat junk food on a mass, that you will lose weight. This was like a definitive statement. Like, you will not gain weight at the rate you would like to if you're incorporating junk food on a mass, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, this is simple stuff. Thermodynamics. Are you consuming more energy than you're expending on a regular basis? And if you are, you will gain weight. And if you're not, and you're consuming underly, you will lose weight. And yes, it is that simple in theory, but there's a lot that goes into it. But that's not, we don't really need to dive into that for this discussion. So for someone to, like, if you eat junk food on a mass, junk food tends to be hyper palatable. It's very energy dense, so it's a small volume of food that contains a lot of calories, which if you're struggling to get enough calories in on a mass, like, that's the way to do it. So this person is basically saying that, like, they were in a surplus eating junk food and they were in a surplus eating whole foods, and like they lost weight on the junk food. And that's just inherently incorrect. Like, you were not in an energy surplus. Like, that's just what it comes down to. And then also, like, how much is this person eating, right? So if we look at me, for example, when I mass, say I'm like 190, I lift 6 days a week, it takes me about like 4,500 calories to gain weight. It's absolutely absurd. Like, I'm somewhat of a special snowflake in that sense. And if all I did was eat chicken, rice, oatmeal, and egg whites, I will not get the 4,500 calories per day. Like, I need to eat some fun stuff in there to get my calories that high.
And if I may add, what would it take for you to get your calories in while eating all those kind of nutrient-dense, fiber-enriched foods? How would that make you probably feel as a result?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think fiber is like a really good topic to touch on in that. So if I'm eating like super nutrient-dense foods, like every grain I consume is a whole grain and I'm eating 4,500 calories, like I can get to a point with fiber where literally hitting like 70 to 80 grams of fiber per day. And just as like a general recommendation, depending on like if you're a male or a female and how many calories you're consuming, like a good general recommendation is like at least 10 grams of fiber per like 1,000 calories. But you know, you can do a little bit more than that. And then overall, 28 to 40 grams of fiber per day is probably a good way to go. And if you consume too much of it relative to the proportion of calories you're consuming, you can definitely deal with like horrible gastrointestinal distress and just feel like bloated the entire day and just be horrible. Right.
So that's what I was kind of hoping you would get at there. So if Mike's trying to eat 4,500 calories to gain weight and he's just trying to do it the pure, whole, unprocessed foods way, hey, Dad. he's just going to overall probably feel pretty terrible because of all the fiber he's consuming. He's going to be in a constant state of bloating and just kind of feeling backed up, and I'm sure his bowel movements will be pretty brutal as well, if we're just being blatantly honest. So that's a problem. That's one of the problems with that as well.
And then let's talk about like real athletes. So like me, obviously, like my calorie requirements can get pretty high, but like think about somebody who plays like college football. Think about like Michael Phelps, right? Like everyone sees these crazy diets on the internet, and it's like what Brian Shaw eats in a day, what Michael Phelps eats in a day. Like, so with Michael Phelps, like training volume, I don't know, what does he eat? Like 8,000 calories per day or something like that? Like, and again, for me, I'm saying it's difficult to, stick to this like clean, unprocessed food. Like every food's processed, but like minimally processed food, like there's just no way. Like he needs to have a pizza in his diet. Like you just need the energy, because we can't afford for him to lose weight at a consistent rate, right? 'Cause it's going to affect his recovery. It's going to affect his training performance. Like there comes a point where like, yes, when you mass, like no, don't just like eat Pop-Tarts and pizza and like mac and cheese all day, right? But like, and it's become pretty common in the industry at this point, like 80-20. Right, and like maybe if we need to bump that like 20 up to like maybe 30% if your calorie needs are really high, like 80%, stick to those minimally processed foods. Different colors of fruits and vegetables is really important, because that just like generally signifies different micronutrients, and just making sure you're covering all of those vitamins and minerals that you need. And then half your grains, whole grains. Stick to lean protein sources mostly. And then piggybacking off of all of this, so kind of going backwards a little bit. So like at my last rotation, I was with the University of Maryland football team and working under the dietitian there. And we had a good handful of guys that needed to gain weight. They were hard gainers, so considering their level of activity, lifting weights in the morning, then having like a 2-hour practice out in the heat with all the pads that coincide with football. I mean, their expenditure is off the charts, and these guys are having a really tough time gaining weight. So we would provide them with weight gain bags. And guess what was in those weight gain bags, dude? It wasn't green leafy vegetables.
The first time I'm hearing about this. I don't know what's in the bags. About to learn what's in the bags, everyone.
It wasn't green leafy vegetables and like pre-prepared chicken breast. It was Goldfish, Cheez-Its, Nature Valley oat bars. And then they would probably also get some sort of shake, because if you're struggling to get your calories in, drinking them makes things super easy. So they would get like some sort of protein shake with fruits. That's another thing, easy to get micronutrients. Just blend up some fruit, green leafy vegetables, and like you won't taste the green leafy vegetables.
Tastes good, guys. Tastes good.
So that's the kind of stuff they would get to gain weight. And just, it's insane to think that someone could get all of those calories in just through like eating salad.
Yeah, I mean, it's absurd. It just comes down to practicality of it. Like, you can't be sitting there all day eating, and then while you're not eating, you're training, and it would just be terrible. It'd be rough going. Maybe someone can do it and they love it. Power to you. We respect that.
But your calorie needs probably also aren't that high if you're doing it.
Yeah, that's probably true. And if you are tracking gram for gram, you're kind of an anomaly. It's pretty crazy. But
I feel like we can tackle a different point of this post.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and this grinds my gears. It drives me off the wall. So everybody eats food. We all have to eat food to survive. So this results in many people who have a strong opinion on what people should eat, who may not be educated in nutrition, and voicing these opinions so strongly. I think that's always my issue, is that like, hey, if you want to learn more about nutrition, this is what you do, and you're and like you want to ask questions, like I'm all for people learning. But it's when people have zero education in nutrition, and then they definitively state to you, this is how it is. And again, it's not based on like, well, look at these citations of it. It's like X dude on Instagram who made some post with a green check mark and a red X saying always do this and never do that. He said that, so this is what we do.
I agree with you, because this kind of line of thinking isn't just for like fitness and just taking kind of one post as the holy grail and then claiming your authority over it and being like, oh, I know about this now because some guy who I've never met in my entire life just made this post and I just read some words and now it's suddenly truth. And then you have like your personal story to go along with it where like you might not even be able to like accurately reflect upon like your diet and how you went about it or something like that. So
yeah, it's this is my N=1 experiment. This is what happened to me, so this is how it is. And it's never black and white. There's so much gray just because, and again, this is just like such a simple thing. Like you weren't in a surplus when you were eating junk food. Like it's not that complicated. But for like a lot of it, and it's people like, well, I lost weight on keto. Keto is the only way you can lose weight. Like the My Plate model and the American dietary guidelines are wrong because they failed me and keto worked for me. So if you're not eating keto, you're not going to lose weight. Like these are just kind of like the tribal nature and like the strength of personal anecdotes that are kind of trendy nowadays, and it attracts a lot of people who don't possess that critical thinking mindset, the ability to differentiate between what's good information and what isn't, just looking at these success stories, looking at people who confirm your bias and they just plant themselves into that echo chamber and everything within it is truth.
I agree, and that's a really good point, Mike, about kind of look for things that can confirm your bias and a lot of times. And I think when, like oftentimes as a society, we don't enough offer the acceptance of multiple opinions or point of views on a certain subject before coming to a conclusion. For example, not to get like into it specifically, but for politics, like kind of separated by watching only CNN or watching Fox, and you're kind of getting that one biased perspective, and that kind of fills your perception of things and how things are, and then you just believe that. Whereas if you get a healthy mix of a bunch of different reliable sources with different perspectives, you can kind of come to your own conclusion, own crossroads, and kind of like weigh the both sides of the story instead of just kind of rolling the tide of going one way and not really like questioning. You're kind of just walking around blind, I think, a lot of times with that.
And there's no problem with not knowing. Like, and again, like this is why I want to get nutrition, because there's so much information out there, so much misinformation, and frankly, people are just absolutely confused about like what's the best route to go. And to be honest, like there are a lot of routes you can go and probably achieve the results you want to achieve. So don't be afraid to be on the fence about anything if you can identify within yourself that like I don't possess the knowledge in this area to make a decision. And feel free to seek out people who can answer those questions for you who may be a bit more qualified. But just taking like this little thing that happened to you, or like what Katie_fit said on Instagram, who is a certified personal trainer, like that's her only credential, and she takes Belfies, and it's just like, yeah, well, she looks good, so like she definitely knows what she's talking about. Like, don't be so quick to commit to just one idea, and ask questions, man. Don't be afraid to say I don't know. It's powerful. You don't need to act like you know everything.
It's a really good point, Mike. I think we kind of hammered that one over the head. I think you really touched on that pretty deeply and thoroughly. So like Mike kind of said, what do we call this segment?
Speaker's Choice.
Speaker's Choice. So we just kind of saw a post and just kind of wanted to give our thoughts on it. But we hope you enjoyed that little commentary. So do you want to transition into the CBD oil kind of things? We can go for that.
Let's take the questions we have. So we're going to answer a few questions. Again, we plan on doing this regularly, so if you follow us on Instagram or whatever, send us a DM about a question you have, and we'll answer it. So again, we got a handful of questions. We're not going to answer all of them today, but we are going to answer a few. So if your question's not on here, we'll get to you. So today, you want to start out with CBD? That was our most popularly asked question.
Should we end on that?
You want to end on it?
I don't know.
Oh,
it's up to you.
Save the best for last.
You could, yeah. Whatever you want to get into right now.
All right. Let's tackle probably like the most straightforward question first. So we got a question on meal replacements, which I think is a good question, especially with Instagram nowadays. And everyone pushing their weird supplement discount codes and brands and like weird fit tees.
Yeah, what is that? What are you doing, guys? All right, Mike. Sorry to intervene.
Drink my 15, you will lose weight. So let's talk about meal replacements, and I'll try to make this as interesting as possible. But I want to get into science.
We're not going to try to make it, a super official lecture, but I think it's going to help give some context to things.
I want to give you the cliffs. I'm going to give out the cliffs.
Yeah, cliffnotes.com, baby.
You got to consider
direct access.
Where we're coming from. Like, if you've ever read a scientific paper, like, they can get pretty lengthy. We're talking like 10, sometimes 20, 30 pages of jargon, and I'm just going to give you the highlights. All right, that's interesting. There's nothing wrong with that. So we're going to be digging into a systematic review and meta-analysis from Asbury et al. 2019, and a systematic review and meta-analysis. Basically a study of all the studies on this topic. Very recent, and they looked at the efficacy of meal replacements and their effect on weight loss. So they broke down all of the studies they gathered into a few different sections. So we're looking at studies that compared a meal replacement diet to just a diet only prescribed by a dietitian. Follow this diet, probably like My Plate guidelines. This is how you eat, this is how you build a plate to lose weight. So they compared that to someone just saying, and it was someone just saying, add this meal replacement in instead of this meal. And on average, most studies tend to replace 2 meals with a meal replacement as their strategy to lose weight. So that was one of the sections. We also have a meal replacement diet plus support, which is like general nutrition education, versus a regular diet and support. So these are kind of like even comparisons. This is kind of apples to apples, because we also have some sections which are the results of these we're not really looking at because it's not apples to apples. So we have like a meal replacement diet plus support compared to just a regular diet. So the latter group did not also receive support. So if someone's receiving like a meal replacement diet and nutrition education, we kind of just know based on what works for losing weight, like behavior therapy, that group's probably going to do better just because they're receiving more education. So there's stuff like that, which I don't want to get into, and that affects the results, right? So the conclusion of this study was that the use of meal replacements for usual foods on some occasions during the day leads to significantly greater weight loss at 1 year than comparator interventions. But I don't want to take that conclusion at face value, because we have these results which are being incorporated, which aren't comparing apples to apples. So I really want to focus on these two sections, which are comparing equal interventions. So if we look at meal replacement diet versus just a regular diet only, we see that in 6 studies compared the meal replacement diet with a diet only. And the results showed that the meal replacement intervention lost 3 kilograms on average, compared to the diet only group lost 1.5 kilograms on average. So we see an advantage there. And then we have 9 studies which include the results from a meal replacement diet plus support versus a diet plus support. And in those results, we see that the meal replacement group lost 2.4 kilos on average compared to 1.34 kilos on average in the comparator. So we're seeing a slight advantage for meal replacements, but does that matter? No, it doesn't.
Take home. End of podcast.
It doesn't matter at all. Like, it's interesting information, right? But like in the real world setting, that does not matter. So let's talk about what meal replacements are and like what you can practically apply from this research showing the success of meal replacements. So in this paper, meal replacements are defined as food products or drinks that are used to replace foods usually consumed at one or more meals with the intent to reduce daily energy intake for the purposes of achieving weight loss or weight maintenance following weight loss. And when you look at these studies which are incorporated, they incorporate the typical like meal replacements you would see on like an ad on TV. So we have Slim Fast, OptiFast, and what do all these products have in common? Like, they're typically high in protein and just like generally low in calories. So for example, OptiFast for like a shake, it's 250 calories, 28 protein, 20 carb, 5 fat. So we're replacing a typical meal with basically a protein shake at the end of the day. So protein seems to be like the most satiating macronutrient on average, right? Like satiety per calorie, like vegetables are the winner, but just like as an overall macronutrient group, protein is the most satiating. So if you're gonna replace one of your typical meals with just a protein shake and keep everything else constant, you're gonna achieve an energy deficit. And I don't really know what regular people eat for like lunch, but like because I feel like my meal composition and just like daily diet is so different from what most people do at this point. Like I don't know, maybe they have like ham and cheese.
Yeah, I would say a sandwich would be pretty good.
Like they might have
some chips or something.
They might have. All right, so maybe
crush a Coke for 70 grams of sugar just real quick. It'll get that spike. But
that sounds perfect. So think about eating a ham and cheese sandwich, a bag of chips, and a Coke. Throw that in the trash and just have a protein shake. It doesn't need to be like one of these meal replacement things because they're just like dumb expensive for like the name and like, oh, it's a meal replacement.
It's the nice sexy allure of the marketing behind it. I think.
Exactly. Like so, like just get like some sort of whey protein powder or like a protein bar, even like a Cliff Bar, 250 calories. They tend to be like pretty satiating. And just like that's how you can practically apply this research. So like take one of those products, throw it in for your ham and cheese and soda, and you're probably looking at like just in that meal anywhere from 350 to more like 500 calories less, like maybe even more.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Depending on like how much you're really packing on that cheese and ham.
What kind of bread you're using
on that sandwich. Yeah. And so is it interesting? Like yeah, because like technically like all these ads for these ridiculous products and it's like yeah, they actually work, but there's nothing special about them.
Yeah, so I mean if you're rocking with the meal replacements and it's working for you, definitely go for it. It's about how can it practically apply to you. For me personally, all things considered, my knowledge is like, okay, I'm trying to hit some calories here. I like to eat a lot. I prefer to chew, use the jaw a little bit more instead of just slurping down a liquid. That seems like a waste to me. But to someone else, it might be their bread and butter. So hope you can take something away from this little discussion on meal replacements. Like I said, if they're for you, continue on with them. But just kind of realize that they're not magic. And I think that's pretty much it.
So let's get into our next question. I want you can tell us the question, and then I want you to start it off. Because this one, there's a couple different avenues you can take, and it's a great question. Do you want to like shout out to people who ask questions, or no?
Where did we get that last question from? We can shout them out.
The next question?
That last one. Where'd that come from? The meal replacement one.
That was from, I don't know the Instagram name, I'm sorry. But Shannon Donnelly, I'm sure if you just search that, you can find her on Instagram.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, Shannon, thank you for the question. Appreciate that. So now we're going to get into a pretty popular one in recent news, basically regarding CBD oil. And for anyone that is unfamiliar, CBD oil is popular. It's derived from marijuana plant, hemp plant, and it is a cannabinoid, which is the second cannabinoid behind THC. And the difference between kind of THC and CBD is THC has psychoactive properties, whereas CBD does not have them. And Mike and I are mostly going to focus on it kind of in the context of muscle hypertrophy and strength training. And it's really not intended to discuss the role of it in anyone with anxiety disorders or medical issues.
We're not medical professionals.
We don't really know. It's kind of, trying to keep it honest a little bit. But I guess we could just talk about, I don't know, you want to go into the Revive Stronger article by Michael?
Yeah, I want to reference an article because, to be honest, I don't find CBD oil to be that interesting. And Miguel LeCoute wrote an article for Revive Stronger, super smart guy. It's a great article. I'm just going to reference him because I would probably either come to the same conclusions Yeah, I would probably come to the same conclusions. Or his would just be better than mine, to be honest. So I'm just gonna stick with that. And it's not that interesting because if you probably know one of us if you're listening to this, and which would also mean you know that we don't take CBD oil for our gains. Why? Because it doesn't really do anything at all, and there's like little to no research on it. So let's get into it. So when we look at why someone might take CBD oil, there seems to be interest in it for improving sleep quality, reducing inflammation. Ooh, buzzword, inflammation, horrible. Always try to reduce as much inflammation as possible. Again, nothing's black and white, so we'll talk about the gray when it comes to that. And there's really no literature with CBD oil use in resistance trainees. So, and like the idea for that is that would improve recovery. I don't know if it would be through some single mechanism, or people would just think that, well, if it improves your sleep, it's going to improve recovery. So we don't have any literature on that, but we do have literature in whether it improves sleep in people who do not have anxiety disorders completely healthy. And we're looking at a study from Nicholson et al., 2004. It was double-blind, placebo-controlled, a 4-way crossover design testing the effects of CBD and THC on sleep latency, which is the time it takes to actually fall asleep. And CBD actually showed that it increased the time it took to fall asleep. So we're actually seeing a negative effect there in healthy subjects. And then we're also going to look at CBD's effect on people without anxiety disorders and whether it reduced their anxiety. And an old paper from Carniel et al., 1974, showed that CBD oil had 0 effects on anxiety. So we're 0 for 2. We're doing great. And these actually agree with a more recent study from Linares et al., 2018, which showed that there's no difference. They actually measured sleepiness as well. So there's no difference in any sleep or anxiety measures compared to placebo. So when we're talking about healthy subjects without anxiety disorders, there doesn't seem to be a beneficial effect on improving sleep quality. It seems like it might actually make things worse. And then it does not reduce anxiety. And when it comes to inflammation, just like what? If you want to make the most gains possible, get this idea out of your head that like you need to reduce inflammation at all costs. Like, so we know with the literature that like chronic low-grade inflammation seems to be associated with chronic diseases, which are absolutely devastating to our country. But if you're trying to make some gains, you want some inflammation. It's what drives adaptation. So when you lift and you're in the recovery process, there is inflammation there, and it tells your body like, hey, that lifting session just absolutely ruined us. So you're going to need to adapt and get bigger and stronger, so next time we tackle that, we're not going to get as messed up. So if we are lifting and then trying to reduce all inflammation possible, that's actually going to be detrimental for our gains. And we have some other research showing this, so like antioxidant supplementation, that seems to reduce muscle growth because it's reducing all inflammation. So the same would kind of apply, like, so with CBD and inflammation, like, you wouldn't even want that to begin with. So don't take it for that. And CBD has been shown to reduce the activity of enzymes, which regulate proteins that have an important function for muscle growth. So just based on, like, other research, we know that, like, you don't want that to begin with. And then, like, in specific research on CBD and inflammation, it has been shown to directly have a negative effect on proteins, which help with muscle growth. So overall, looking at CBD for getting jacked, just don't do it.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes after, like, what are your goals? What are you trying to do? And an allure to it, maybe you just trying to touch all the bases, if you will, and be like, oh, I'm the jacked, really healthy, fit guy that does all this stuff. But if you're just trying to get as jacked as possible, like Mike said, it's probably not the way to go. And Mike, do you know if in the Nicholson 2004 study, if they did CBD and THC together on sleep latency, or was it individually?
I'm not sure about that paper. I know in Carniel et al. They did THC plus CBD.
Mm-hmm.
They might have in the Nicholson. I mean, you can just go to the Miguel, like, I don't know, if you want, like, go to the Miguel.
Yeah, you can check it out. Get the original source on that because we're not entirely sure.
Yeah, you can just check it there. But yeah, like, and if somebody has the idea that CBD is gonna make you more jacked, like, I'm just probably gonna blame social media for that. And it's some fit dude on Instagram who's like, hey, I take CBD oil and like it does this, and it's like that's probably also the dude that takes like 30 other supplements.
Yeah.
And supplements in general, they just have such a small effect on actually doing anything meaningful. Like, there's maybe 5 that you might like want to look into, but just like they're at the bottom of the pyramid, man.
Right.
Where you're looking at things that you want to do to make sure you're getting as jacked as possible. It's not supplements. Like, the effect sizes are so small, it's really not going to do anything for you. It's just stop with supplements. Everybody loves supplements,
everybody
right?
does love supplements.
Like,
too much.
It's too much. Like, right? So, like, supplements that you should probably take. Like, I feel it's difficult. Like, whey protein is a supplement, but like it's
food, man.
It's a food.
It's just food.
It's just a food. Like, we'll count that. Creatine monohydrate, definitely effective.
Hold on, let me stop you tracks right there. The question, do you take protein powder? Like, yeah, sometimes. Like, I don't need it though. What do you mean? What do you mean you don't need it? Like, just eat. I don't know. I eat some chicken. Like, I don't know. There's other ways to get it in.
Yeah.
Protein powder isn't magic. It's literally just the macronutrient protein broken down in the whey, possibly in this powdered form that like you drink or something. That's all it is. It's just kind of the food and the powder.
Yeah, it's just it's milk, man. Like when you heat milk and then separate the whey from the curd, like you're just taking the whey and then like putting it in powder form and drinking it. So like you're concentrating the protein content and putting it or like creatine, like, bro, especially like years ago, like, and people would be like, oh my god, you're taking creatine, like you're cheating, like you're.
Yeah, people think that just like, first of all, its only function is to not make you look bigger. No one knows what it actually does. It's like, oh, he's on creatine, dude.
Like, that's why you're big.
Yeah. Like,
obviously. And it's just like, no.
You're like, where's that even line of thinking come from? You just heard that from your friend Johnny, just like, yo, dude, he takes creatine, like it's just him looking jacked, like that's all it does.
And not every, like, so some people, if they're a responder to creatine, there are non-responders to creatine. It's just like it doesn't do anything. And then there's some people who, when they first start taking it, they like retain a lot of water. And like, I could probably tell if someone started taking creatine and they were like a hyper responder and they're holding like 5 pounds of water. Like, I could probably tell if they're looking big. But to like the common eye, like, you're not gonna look at someone and be like, you definitely started something different yourself. And say, like, I can see those.
Yeah, creatine, bro.
4.2 pounds. Like, I see you filling out that shirt a little bit. Like, no, like, it's not like you start taking creatine, you gain 20 pounds.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And just for people to know, when you put on that water weight, can you just kind of enlighten where that water weight is going in your body? Like, if it's subcutaneous, and you're just like, some people think that you'll like get bloated and just hold water and just look kind of softer overall. So I don't know if you could touch on that maybe at all.
I mean, it's like transient, right? So, like, you might have some sort of effect, like especially if you load it. If you load it, you're probably gonna like. In your hyper responder, you'll see a lot of like holding that water, but it's not just like you're forever like this bloated mess.
Yeah, that's not how it works. What were we talking again? We're derailing on supplements a little bit.
Yeah, and then so like, dude, if you're not taking creatine, like, just take it. It's actually like the research is getting out of hand about like the number of benefits that creatine has. Like, now there's some stuff on bone health. Like, there's a study on postmenopausal women. So like Eric Trexler on Stronger by Science just wrote like a great article on creatine, and like it was just like, oh no, not another creatine article. And he was like, but like his whole point was he was talking about like these effects of creatine that like most people aren't aware. Like there's some benefits on cognition and potentially preventing some degenerative diseases. Like I believe like Alzheimer's or might have been Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I think I saw Alzheimer's. It's that one.
Yeah, and so but like and then it's just gonna like improve your lifting performance most likely, and like that's basically like how you're getting more jacked through creatine. Like it's not because like you forever hold water and like you're just bigger. Like it's because it's benefiting the energy system that you're using for lifting weights.
Right.
And it's making it more efficient, more or less, which is allowing you to, maybe add a rep to a set, and just increasing loads slightly. And again, these are very slight things, but at the end of the day, you're going to accumulate more volume through this like slight increase in performance, and like that's what's ultimately going to make you more muscular.
Right. I think it's a really good point, because just like you said, that's the energy system you're using to just lift weights, and if it's going to allow you to get one more repetition each time, maybe add like 2.5 pounds, it's kind of just adding links to the fence, and over time you're building a better version of you. So if you're not taking creatine, just, I don't know, take it, man.
Just do it. It's so cheap, too. It's insanely cheap.
It's like, I don't know, $7 for 2.5, 3 pounds, maybe more. I don't even know.
And just take 5 grams a day. You don't have to load it. Like, you can load it. Like, it'll saturate your cells quicker. But, like, if you don't, like, just take 5 grams. They'll probably be fully saturated, I don't know, like a month. And then, like, you're good. You're good to go.
And, like, drink a little more water. But, like, I don't know, you probably naturally will. You might just feel more thirsty, and you'll just drink water just to, like, because that's the way
that's
you do
another
it.
thing, too. Like, the research doesn't support, like, the whole cramping thing. Like, I remember, like, watching...
No one really understands cramping, I feel like, still.
Oh, my
That's
God.
right? No one really understands it
no
still?
one understands it. Like, at
Dehydrated, bro! Sure, like, I don't know.
Oh, and then it's, like, grab a banana. Because potassium...
Oh, yeah.
Like, no, potassium... The primary composition of your sweat is sodium. Vast majority of it. Like, yes, you lose potassium, you lose other electrolytes as well, like magnesium, calcium a little bit, but and chloride. So, so chloride's a big one as well. But like, no, don't grab a banana. Grab like some sort of
just laying on the ground, grabbing his calf. Here's your banana, dude.
Yeah, so that
scarf this puppy down, you'll be fine.
Like, no, have some sodium, and then also like when I feel like when I was younger, like watching football games, and it's like, oh, the player gets taken off the field with cramp, and then I'd just be like, oh, like it's because all those football players take creatine, man. Like, of course they're in cramp. I'm like, no, that's not. Like, the literature doesn't support that whole notion whatsoever. So on this supplement train, is there any other supplements you would recommend?
I mean, if we're counting caffeine, obviously, holy grail.
Have some caffeine. It makes everything better. Literally everything.
I don't want to be addicted to caffeine. Why? Kind of why, I don't know. Like, you want to wake up and feel better every day? Like, I don't know.
Or someone's like, I need to taper my caffeine intake. Like, I just want to feel horrible every day.
I mean, I guess, I don't know, if you're trying to prove a point and kind of like show you're not dependent on it, which is cool. If you don't want to drink this much caffeine or however much you want to drink, that's fine. Do your thing. But I think Mike and I can both agree that it kind of just improves us overall in terms of just mental alertness.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Mood, productivity. Obviously, we use it for training pre-workout and just kind of get you all jazzed up to get after it.
Yeah, no, anaerobic performance, aerobic performance, caffeine makes you better. And then again, increasing mental alertness, decreasing perceived exertion.
I think that's a big one too.
And just making you better. I mean, like, yes, you do acclimate to caffeine. Like, personally, like, I won't use it like 1 day per week when I'm not lifting. That's probably a good idea.
I should probably get into that one. Yeah, I don't know. I guess you just have it, but And
then an ergogenic dose, so basically, like, to get to performance benefits of caffeine is 3 to 6 milligrams per kilo, and like if you don't drink that much caffeine, don't start at 3 because it's probably like double what you're taking.
Yeah, for sure.
So like work your way up maybe, but like hey, if you're kind of close, but like you're not taking 3, but like you take like get to 3. Like, dude, I'm probably at 5 milligrams per kilo. Nah, 4. Yeah, I'm a little bit better.
Do you stop drinking or taking in caffeine at any point during the day to kind of help you
Oh yeah.
eventually come down?
Yeah. So like the half-life on caffeine, it differs based on your genetics and how quickly you can break that down. But I wouldn't try to take it like at least 6 to 8 hours before bed, or it'll probably keep you up.
So for me, that's usually like 3 p.m. I try not to have any more.
Yeah, like just in general, it's probably.
And then I find, at least in my own personal case, kind of, I'm able to go to sleep by that point. I'm pretty wound down, but I'm not afraid of it overall. I don't know any others that you personally like that you put a lot of stock in, because for me, I only really roll with caffeine, creatine, and I guess protein powder personally.
Probably fish oil. If you don't eat fatty fish, which like no one likes fish, so probably taking fish oil. An effective dose is 2 grams EPA and DHA combined, which for most products is probably going to be like a few capsules.
Right.
Probably somewhere between 2 and 4. Just look at the label. It'll let you know. But besides those, like I'm not, I don't know, maybe a multivitamin, but like
if you're eating enough variety of fruits and vegetables over time.
Don't eat like a child. Like eat like an adult and like eat your fruits and vegetables and like
yeah, I agree.
Nutritious food.
Just kind of have some sense of like responsibility for like just being a person on this planet, man. Like you got to just kind of be like, I gotta put myself in a position to be around for a while at like a high functioning capacity.
Bro,
I think
no one loves vegetables. I come across people like, and they're just like, well, I love asparagus or like something like that. And I'm like,
how much do you really love it?
Stop. Like I love chicken fingers personally. Like I don't love asparagus, but like I eat like probably 5 to 6 servings of fruit. But dude, when I'm dieting, it's like. It's a lot. I'm like the healthiest person ever.
Yeah.
When I diet, like my servings are definitely like closer to like 8 to 10. But like man, even when I'm massing, like I get 4 to 5. You know what I mean? I don't like it. You know what I mean? But it's not like I'm like forcing it down. I hate it. Like it's fine. It's being an adult and caring about your health. Like, do you like going to work? Like I hope you like going to work if that's what you plan to do with the rest of your life. But like most people are kind of just like. I mean, it's not the worst thing ever, and, like, I need to make money, so, like, yes, I'm going to go to work, and I'm just like, okay, well, like, you go to work because you're an adult, and, like, it's your responsibility. It's also your responsibility to, like, take care of your body, like, just eat the vegetables.
Right.
Maybe eat them first, get them off your plate, and then, like, really enjoy the rest of your meal.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to take a look at other areas of your life if you're struggling to get the fruits and vegetables in, because if you're struggling with that, you probably got some other problems you got to look at as well, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, like with kids and stuff, like, they can be really bad with it. Like I've done some food diaries for high school kids who just like don't eat fruits and vegetables ever, and like I get it. Like, and I'm not gonna tell them to eat like 4 or 5 servings per day, but like, hey, we can start squeezing in like 1 or 2. Like again, throw some fruit in a blender with a smoothie. Throw some leafy greens in there. You know, it's gonna taste good. You can work with like sauces and stuff. Like if you just don't eat any vegetables and like putting, X sauce on a vegetable will make you eat it, like just do that. It's fine. Maybe sneak it into like some casserole type foods, but man, just get them in. They're great for you. Every single study ever shows it.
Yeah, I think you'll thank yourself over time.
Don't listen to those carnivore people telling you not to eat fruits or vegetables or any fiber. Just stop.
We're just going down tons of rabbit holes here. Started from CBD oil, just going down the supplement list.
All right, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I think it's good to just have an open conversation about it.
Just so much nonsense.
Yeah, I know. Mike and I have a lot going on in our mind. There's a lot that occupies it. I think maybe we can round that out, and maybe we can finish with kind of going into a beginner guide if you're interested to getting to lifting, and particularly building muscle, and kind of what got us into it, and what kind of benefits we saw in our personal lives about it. If you want to kind of start off.
Oh, past question.
Oh, okay.
CBD oil was from Tom Colzer, Tom_Colzer on Instagram.
And at Karen Stanford.
Correct.
So we got 2 of those. So thank you guys. Appreciate the input there. And going into, I guess, our final topic of the day, we'll try to finish this up relatively quickly without derailing too much. But kind of just what got us into lifting in the first place, what kind of personal benefits we've kind of seen.
Do you want to read the actual question? Because I think it's
okay. I'm gonna have to pull it up here.
Because this is why I got into lifting. like this was why I got into it. Like this question, like what it's specifically concerned with.
You want me to read this whole thing from him?
But like, not exactly. Like you can summarize it.
Okay, so basically, our friend Ronan_Leary on Instagram from England. We met
across
the country. So
we're international.
Yeah, we got some reach, guys. So come on. Ronan basically asked if going to the gym helped with getting girls and having any tips for the first time, I guess just starting off in the gym overall. And wants him, as he would put it, improve his chances of smashing a bird. So great jargon, I guess, for Ronan. I'm not familiar with that, but Mike, you want to start off with like how you, I guess, got into it and if it helped you out in any way?
And then we'll end with like beginner guidelines.
Yeah, should do that.
All right. So I got into lifting pretty young. I was kind of a chubby kid, right? Was an athlete. Cole, you can confirm that. I was a athletic chubby boy.
Mike was a tank. He was quite the bottom shelf.
But self-esteem wise, not the best. So decided to lose some weight, get jacked, and it was literally to like, cause I was middle school, like late middle school. So like yeah, like all I cared about was just like how I looked, what girls thought of me. So obviously we got to change the exterior. So I started getting into lifting for that, and I can say that yeah, I look a lot better, lost weight, which dramatically improved my confidence. But for me, I spiraled pretty quickly into like the obsessive side of it, and just like literally from like the age of 15, like I knew someday I was going to compete in bodybuilding. Like I was just like absolutely obsessed with it. Dude, I remember like my first exposure. So like I got really skinny, and like I thought it was sick. Like I had abs.
Yeah, you were real skinny.
I'm like greatest thing ever. Like when you're 13 and have abs, like it's cool. That's what girls are into.
Yeah, girls just like seeing that.
So I just started like binge watching Soldier Nation videos and like doing all those training sessions, and like as we'll get into, like they were horrible. Like, oh my god, I hated young me. Just so much wasted time on just nonsense training programs.
Right.
Yeah, so I got into that, and then just like it transitioned into like I got really into like actual bodybuilding, and like I loved watching like the original Generation Iron and what was Iron? Oh, Pumping Iron.
Oh right, yeah.
Watching both of those, and then like we trained at Greg Long's together, and like I remember like my favorite routine was Dorian Yates' routine from like the Blood and Guts video. It was just like this black and white video of him training in his basement with his
it's good.
outlandish training partner, just going super hard, and like that's all it was for an hour. There was like no actual content of like him talking like this is why I do this. Like no, it was just them training hard.
Just raw primal lift and weight emotion.
So I just got like super obsessed and like entrenched with my culture, and it's just like kind of stuck ever since. But like overall, like if you start lifting weights and like, you know, for me it was losing weight and putting on muscle. But even if like you're small now and like just putting on muscle, like ultimately it just comes down to like you look good, you feel good, you're going to be able to socialize with the opposite sex much more efficiently, and not just have like this underlying anxiety all the time of like socializing with people, because like you just aren't you don't accept how you look physically,
right?
So it's just like it all combines together, and yes, like if you start lifting, you're gonna look better, and it will definitely translate into all the aspects of your life, and you'll just be a more confident person.
Yeah, I agree. Mike has kind of like a little bit different of a journey than me, I guess. Mike comes from a really cool place though, and I think after he was done with his kind of like Dorian Yates routine, he kind of took a step back and got to a point where I think lifting can help a lot of people. I don't know what it does in terms of like personal development, but I think you get to a point where you like start questioning like what you're doing, and you're like, okay, well, why is this great? Like, for what reason am I actually doing this? What am I accomplishing here? And you just overall become more curious, and that kind of maybe helped him lead into like finding out, learning more about the scientific side of things, and just kind of looking at what is actually happening here in terms of like the mechanistic approach. And then at my side of things, where I got to that point, basically, I'll just rewind because why not? But basically, like I said kind of earlier, I started probably about 5-6 years ago, and at the time I was a freshman in college when I started for real, if you were to say that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess at that point I played high school basketball before that, and I kind of needed a new thing because I didn't like basketball's my thing, and I trained for basketball, and that was my entire life. So going to find a new thing, my older brother lifted weights and he was big, and I was like, oh, I want to do that. So I kind of went to him for what to do, and he gave me like a program, and basically the program was, I think, like 5 or 6 days a week, a classic bro split, which would be like chest, back, arms, legs one time, and then there would just be an insane amount of volume. So volume being like, well, kind of just overall sets I'm doing in the workout. And if I'm doing a chest workout, I'm probably looking at like 30 to 35 sets of chest, just absolutely grueling.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't know any better. I was just listening, kind of walking with my head down. And it was okay to get started, but I just noticed that the program alone wasn't helping me enough. And as someone that just kind of, I guess I got obsessed with it a little bit, as Mike kind of touched on in his own experience, as I was trying to figure out ways to kind of get better and progress more efficiently, because I was trying to look better for girls to improve my confidence. And like when you're in the gym, you're like looking around, you're surveying for the other guys, you're like seeing who's big, and you're like, I wonder what this guy does. And then you may be someone that asks those people, and that's how you get your advice.
What supplements do you take, bro?
Yeah.
Do you take creatine?
Yo, what are you hitting today? Chest? Oh man, what do you do? And then like you'll get, suddenly you're doing 5 by 5 every week and you don't even know why. But anyway,
it's just fives, man.
Yeah,
your fives, they're the best.
I found out the split I was doing was probably a little bit too much volume I could tolerate and handle as such a young trainee. I probably could have gotten away with, I don't know, half the volume, maybe even less than that, because when you're new to training, because it was just so grueling every time. So once I started questioning things and getting more into it, I could kind of find my way, and I would have wasted a lot less time if I would have just looked at it from that perspective early on. But going off of like if it helped me get girls, I mean, I guess Mike kind of touched on it. Like it just kind of helps you exude more confidence naturally, and I'm sure everyone knows of like the classic egotistical, like douchey gym goer who thinks he's sick and is like a little bit overdone and in your face with it. And I'm not saying that like Mike and I aren't like that, because I don't know, we're not perfect, we're human. But basically, I don't know, you just think less, in my personal opinion, about like when you're interacting with someone. You're not thinking about like how you look as much. You just, I don't know, it's like an innate thing. It's hard to explain, I guess.
It kind of depends on like how much stock you put into what you're doing. So like if you just like lift a few times per week and like you look better, like just like generally it'll probably translate into more confidence and like a positive aspect on your life. But then like you can go to two extremes if you put like a lot of effort and time into the gym. So like with me and like some people like within bodybuilding, which is like kind of like, I'm not in bodybuilding, but like I don't know, kind of like who care about it so much. Like I don't care about how I look to other people, like at all. So like when I'm like fat and fluffy and stuff, and people are like, why are you doing that? Like you look way better. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like this is what I do. Like I don't really want to talk to people, and I'm like pretty introverted about it, especially in the gym. But then you have like the opposite side, and they're usually not into like actual bodybuilding, but they're really into just like fitness and training at the gym. And then you have like the very extroverted, egotistical douchebag who's just like, what other guys are looking at me, and like I'm all into this. But like probably if you kind of take a middle road, like hey, I lift a few days per week to look a little bit better, get healthier, like yeah, that's what's gonna happen. Just keep it moderate, man.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't know, anything else you would want to add to that going forward? I don't think we rely on it by any means. I know Mike certainly doesn't, and I don't think I do, as just like the end all be all of like gaining more friends, respect, or like getting girls or guys, whatever you're into, I guess. But yeah, because if just, I don't know, I guess it helped us just overall develop our line of thinking more, questioning, and then just kind of our personality developing along as our body developed, kind of cocktail and like making us more well-rounded people that could...
Yeah, I think so. Like, it can make you more confident. I can say that, like, it's had, like, many other aspects of my life it's translated into. Like, I feel like because of lifting, like, I'm super disciplined just because of how into it I'm in, so that, like, translated into, like, me getting to bed on time and, like, eating well and, like, caring about meal timing. So then, like, in other aspects of my life, like when it comes to school and everything else, I tend to be like pretty disciplined and structured and like on point with my work and stuff. And like I think a lot of my positive habits that make me an effective person in like other realms, they all kind of just like derive from these things I developed from lifting weights.
Yeah, I agree. I'm pretty much 100% in agreement with you on that one, Mike, for sure. I don't know.
I think you kind of like took us into like the next part of this, like you touched on it. With beginners, so like you can literally do pretty much anything and like get stronger and more jacked because like you haven't done anything. So like one set of whatever is a stimulus to you, and you can adapt to that, and you can get better. But like I don't know, most people have to drive to the gym. So like if you just have like 8 sets and you do like a full body workout and you just have like one set of everything, like yes, that will make you better, but you could probably get your workout done in like 15 minutes. So like your travel time to the gym is 45 minutes, and like your actual workout's 15, but it's probably not worth it. So like point being is that you can get away with very little as a beginner. I think you gave some good insight into like definitely don't overdo it because you
just don't need to. First of all,
you don't need to because you can get better from one set. And then actually, like, if you trash yourself, you're going to get super sore from that, and, like, you might have, like, a negative connotation with the gym.
Yeah, like, what I find is if someone's like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym, and then they just go, like, a level 100 right away, and then they're just like, oh, I'm so sore, and then they're sore for, like, a week, and they don't want to go back. I don't think that's a really great way of going about doing things.
So if I was working with a beginner, depending on their schedule and stuff, like, 3 days. Start with 3 days, and, like, that's completely fine, and you could do like upper, lower, full body, or you could just do full body all 3 days, and like maybe do 2 sets per exercises, and stick to like some major principles. So like have a horizontal push, maybe have a vertical push. I don't know, like. A lot of people say like you should have a vertical push. I'm not into it, man. Like if you count incline,
I'm not into it because Mike's not into it in this context.
If you count incline as a vertical push, sure, but like you definitely don't need to do overhead pressing. Have some sort of hinge. So this would be like any sort of deadlift. A trap bar deadlift tends to be pretty effective for most people. Like maybe a cable pull through. You can always just like. If you don't know the exercise, just like type it into YouTube and you'll find the instructions.
Yeah, learn how to hinge. It's pretty important for
no one knows how to hinge. I like have a squat, have a horizontal pull, which is some sort of rowing movement. Have a vertical pull, so like some sort of lat pull down or pull up. These are going to be the basis of your program. Beginner, maybe hit never touch the weight. Do like 4 to 6 sets per muscle group per week.
I'm with that, yeah, for sure.
And like that's fine, but I think if like it might be worthwhile getting an in-person personal trainer, just to like really dial in your movement patterns, like for squatting and hinging and pressing. Like you just need to learn basic technique.
I agree. I feel like early on is such a important time to get your technique down, because I'm sure I still have habits from when I first started where I can't really get out of them if they're not optimal or I've hurt myself in some way just doing them. So just trying to be really disciplined overall with your techniques and just kind of groove the motor patterns in over time. And like Mike said, having a trainer might be super beneficial. Just kind of have another set of eyes on you.
I would say that's like one of the major principles. So like I'll give 3 for people like just getting into the gym. Like 3 things they should be concerned about is that so again, like you'll have these basic movement patterns. You'll have like a few sets per week of each thing. So make sure you get technique on point. Focus on technique and building that platform. Because if you just like drill poor technique from the beginning, like it's going to be so hard to get out of it. So hit technique. Be consistent. I don't care what you do. You can